What is up, everybody, and welcome to Real Talks podcast. We're going to break down what it takes to live life on your terms through entrepreneurship, specifically real estate investing. So we're going to hit it hard, the good, the bad, and the real, because that climb, as any entrepreneur knows, is never smooth. My name is Mike Singletary. I'm your host. So let's get real. What is up? What is up? So it has been a heck of a month so far. It's December 2023. And I hope your last quarter is killing it. I hope that you're hitting all your projections. I hope this year was a great year for you. Unfortunately, I know this to be a fact. For most people, it really has not been a great year. Interest rates are still sky high, and people are not selling their houses because they're sitting on a gold mine in their mortgage rates being at 3%, historically low mortgage rates. So the opportunity to buy is less. So there's a lot more people just kind of sitting on the sidelines or quitting altogether. Because I know this because of Skip Force. We were going through our database of customers and calling everybody, seeing how they're doing. It's pretty much a standard thing for us. And, we have noticed a huge amount of people just not moving forward, right? And I hope that's not you. And I hope to help you guys with this podcast, with people that come onto this podcast to get through any kind of hurdles that you're seeing right now within your business. Now, maybe you're on the sideline and maybe you're like, hey, I've always wanted to get into real estate. Guess what? This is a great time. This is a fantastic time to get into real estate. The reason being is because there's more opportunity. Now, is buying more difficult right now? Part of that is a yes. But if you have capital and you are able to buy and sit on property, you're getting it at a discount right now. And I think it's going to continue through 2024. So if you have money and you're not sure what to do with it, as far as like you don't want to jump in head first, here's what I would recommend. Partner up with big time operators, people that have a track history. Be their hard money lender. You're probably going to get 10, 12% on your money right now. And it's backed, collateralized by real estate. You're never going to get that in any other investment, right? So what that means is that you put the money up for them to buy and rehab the house. It's going to be at a certain equity. So typically we buy it at 50% equity. You're in first position. You're the bank. And if something happens, say the operator just completely messes up, you get that property back at 50%, right? Typically, big operators, very rarely are they just going to fold shop. It's usually the middle or the small guys are going to fold shop. And in that process, you can make a deal with the operator and go, hey, listen, I want to lend you this money at 10%. I could probably lend it at 2%. But for that extra, difference, I want to learn. I want to learn as much as possible. Can I walk the site? I wouldn't invest in properties that are outside my area. So that way I could drive by and I'd know the area, that type of stuff. Although we ask our private money people to do it all the time, truthfully, because we buy in so many different counties and states and stuff like that. So, if you're on the sideline, you got some cash on you, man, this is a time, especially if you're a high income earner. If you're a high income earner right now, oh my God, you are paying too much in taxes. Real estate. If you purchase real estate, there's so many benefits. The main one is just taxes. I mean, the depreciation, you could write all that off, and you could write it all off in the first year. It's called a cost segregation. So we could talk more about that another time. Feel free to DM me at any time. And we could have a more in-depth conversation about that because, I'm very fortunate that, my wife's a high income earner. I'm a high income earner, but through real estate, we are able to, mitigate our taxes because of depreciation. So, but today I have a guest on that I'm super excited to, share with you. I've known him for several years. He's had quite a journey and, I've always been unbelievably impressed by him. He's a smart dude, a lot smarter than me. And I like that. And so I like to learn from him quite a bit. I'm going to bring him on right now. Just 1 second though, because I want to read his bio. Brad Woodall is a real estate investor based in Metro Atlanta, Georgia. Brad has a wife and 2 boys, lives in Canton, Georgia, about 40 miles north of Atlanta. He's been active in real estate since 2015. been doing direct to seller marketing since 2016. He left a six-figure corporate job in 2018 to pursue real estate investing full-time and has never looked back. Brad's main focus is probate and inheritance deals and is now doing them across the country through a very unique marketing strategy. And I cannot wait to hear what that is all about. So welcome, Brad. How are you, buddy?
Hey, Mike. What's up, buddy? Good to see you, buddy.
It's great to see you, man. How's everything?
That's good, man. It's good. Been a crazy day today, driving all over the world, but back home in the office. So,
yeah. Is it a good crazy or is it a bad crazy?
I took my son down to the doctor this morning. That's our usual weekly routine, as you know. And but then just had a closing, made some money today. Well, I haven't got the wire yet, but I'll get it later on today. But good. Yeah, man.
I was just telling my team that I was like, we need more closings. We need more closings. Property rich, cash getting cash poor too. You know what I mean? That weird little roller coaster. Like, 2 months ago, I'm like, man, we got plenty. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we need to get some closings. And so good for you, man. And I know you've been going through some things with your son. How is he?
He's doing well right now. Everything's kind of stable at the moment. So we'll take that, take it as long as we can. So,
well, yeah, I'm a dad, as you well know, right? And I don't know how much of this you want to share, and I'll leave that up to you, right? But what you've had to go through, and I've just been watching you through Facebook, it just tears me apart. I can't believe, I guess just the roller coaster that you've had to endure. Talk to me about that whole process or what you and your family been going through recently.
Yeah, man. So I'll share a little bit about it. So a little over a year ago, my son, my youngest son, my 6-year-old son, was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Was acting funny one day, ended up being hospitalized, sent us back home, didn't think it was anything. And then it came back and back in the hospital again. And then by January of this year, 2023, basically it ultimately came out to be a terminal brain tumor diagnosis, a very aggressive brain tumor.
Wow.
And wow, what, like when you hear that, you're like, oh my God, like this is crazy, but obviously some dark times, and, just hopeful, a lot of praying, just a lot of everything, right? And the outpouring of support from everyone around us has been fantastic. And happy to say that he's already beating the odds right now, and he's doing well right now. Everything's stable. We've got another MRI here in a little over a month from today to the 6th. His next MRI is on January 6th. So,
right.
But yeah, so we're just hopeful that continues. He's on a sort of, let's call it an experimental drug at the moment, and it seems to be working. So.
That's unbelievable, man. So he's a fighter, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a big proponent, or I believe in the power of prayer quite a bit. So that's unbelievable that your community is kind of wrapping himself around you. How have you been able to, like you and your wife, and how are you able to maintain like your business and all that stuff?
Well, I won't lie that the business hasn't suffered. My business. What was crazy too, as you know, and you follow my story, like I kind of put the business on autopilot in 2022. We were building a new home. I was building a custom home. I was the GC of the project. Like it took a lot of my time, and we finished and moved in July, and then all of his health issues started happening in September. So, my business, granted, my primary business lost money last year, but I did some other real estate deals and made some money on some other ways, right? So it was okay there, but obviously the business suffered. Fortunately, I wasn't running this big giant behemoth of a company. I was able to sort of, pivot and adjust a little bit. And then that was kind of right when we were launching this other whole thing I was doing. So that sort of got delayed a little bit, and just been craziness this year trying to get this new thing going. So. But
let's talk about that, man. Because I know, obviously we're putting things in perspective, right? There's always things a lot more important than business, especially when it comes to our kids. But we gotta put, food on the table, right? And I know you've been working on some big things. So let's talk about what you've been working on.
Yeah, man. So as you know me through Investor Fuel, right? Yeah. And we're like OGs in the group, man. We've been there since the beginning, right?
We have.
And so a few years ago, I started to sort of drill down on probate stuff, right? And I was just doing that like local here in Georgia. I was always doing it like the traditional way, right? Buying the probate list, sending the mailers, I did some cold calling, what everybody does with probate. And then you also know me, like I've done, online marketing, SEO, pay-per-click, and I started sort of experimenting with YouTube stuff years ago. And it kind of clicked with me, I guess it was like a couple of years ago now. It's like, wait a second, what if I start doing that, like merging the probate stuff with the online marketing, right? Like, how could I make those two together? Because I'm good at this and I'm good at this. And my team's really good at doing probate deals. Like, we're really good at, like, my leads managers who worked with me for like 4 years. I swear she could be like a therapist. I mean, she's like really good with people. And with these probate deals, like you're dealing with, it's not just real estate, man. Like these are like emotional deals, like you better have somebody who knows how to like deal with people. Right.
Right.
And so like we're really good at it. And I was like, well, let's try this. So I tried it in Georgia, did kind of a proof of concept. And as I'm doing it, like we're starting to do the pay-per-click and doing the Google ads for it. And we're doing the SEO, I'm doing the YouTube videos, and I'm like starting to get leads and traffic from this. And I'm like, wait a second, like I can do this everywhere. Like these things apply all over the country, right? Like what I'm doing is not just specific to Georgia. Now, granted, probate law is like, I would say it's probably 90% the same across the country. There's subtleties from state to state, but like for the most part, it's the same, right? So I started doing that. So I launched a website called probateresource.com late last year. I think it was like December of last year. I was trying to buy this domain from this lady for years. She finally sold it to me. For like a couple years, I was chasing her and she agreed to sell it to me. I had to pay thousands of dollars for this domain name. So launched that and started like getting leads, and we were kind of experimenting with it. And then I just started hammering all the YouTube. I'm doing YouTube. I've got 2 different brands. I've got my Probate House Guy brand, which is aimed at investors and real estate agents and that sort of thing. And then the Probate Resource brand is like really let's call it seller facing brand, right? That's like all the topics and content for sellers that are going through probate. And we're helping them with like all aspects of probate, not just like the legal and the real estate piece, like therapy related, all the things. Right.
Really? Even going into therapy. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I've got some therapists kind of contributed some content to the site on those topics and the legal topics. I've got attorneys contributing content. Like it's just this big central resource website for people going through probate. Like it's such a disjointed industry, right? When you think about it, it's all very localized. Like you got your local probate attorney and you got your local people, but like there's nothing like online, and everyone goes to Google and the internet to like seek answers to their life for everything, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's kind of what I did with it, right? And I took all the things I learned from doing all these probate deals and all the crazy things, and I've learned all the things, right? I'm tackling it from every angle,
Okay.
We're getting all these leads in, and then of course I can't deal with all these leads, so I'm actually selling some of the leads off to other people.
That's awesome. So do you have a platform for that, or how are you executing that?
Yeah. So through probatehouseguy.com, you can kind of go through the funnel, right? And go through that. And basically it's kind of an exclusivity model. Like you would just pay a small, subscription fee to get exclusivity in your zip code. Like if you want to be the guy, and all our leads in that zip code go to you, like nobody else, right?
Okay.
You're the only person there. And then it's just a pay per lead as the leads come in. We're generating them. If we get a lead in that zip code, it goes out to that person. And my team's talking to them first. Like we're triaging the leads as they come in to make sure that they're not, you've done pay-per lead services. Like a lot of the
leads for them.
Yeah. So we're talking to them first and figuring out if it's worthwhile and then handing it off, not like just handing off a cold lead that could just be garbage, right? It could be spam,
Okay. So you're running a PPC campaign to your site or whatever the case is, right?
But all the things, right?
Okay.
I mean, we're doing retargeting, we're doing social media ads, YouTube ads, like we're doing all the things, right? And SEO, and everything, right? Yeah. It's all coming in online, and then the leads coming to us, and I kind of pick what I want to keep. If I want to buy this house here, buy this house there, I'll cherry pick, and then the rest just we'll hand them off to other people. So
that's interesting. So like say I'm in Austin, but say I wanted to Houston because Houston's such a big city, right?
yeah,
Are
yeah.
you capping people in a city like that per, I don't know, million or something like that? Or you're just giving them the whole territory? How's that work?
Well, it's per zip code, right? So you pay
How's it
a subscription fee. It's a nominal fee per zip code, right? You can get the fee. The fee stuff is all on my website. It's a nominal fee, just a subscription, and that gives you your like exclusivity to your area.
Got
So
it.
like if you want to buy all of Houston zip codes and be the guy in Houston for that, that's fine. We would just I'm not letting any random Joe in this business, right? Like you need to be an experienced investor, know what you're doing, like
Sure.
and an agent, right? You got to know how to do these kinds of deals, like because I've got to maintain brand integrity on my front end, right? Like I've got to make sure that these people are, taking the ball to the finish line, right? So
Yeah. No, I get it, man. And I love probate. I mean, I don't do as much of them. We don't target probate as much. I mean, we just do the low hanging fruit and do absentees, but we just do cast a really, really wide net. And right now,
yeah,
absentees are doing fantastic for us. But I love
for
probate leads because obviously, there's a need. You're helping somebody and they need to sell more times than not. What do you see other investors, how they, I don't know if mess up is the right word, but how they don't handle the leads as well as say you would handle them? What are the maybe couple things that come to your mind and go, man, this is usually a problem that I have to come in and fix?
for you talking about from like any perspective or just from the probate perspective or
Okay,
like
from that perspective.
yeah. So like obviously this business is just as much a real estate business as a people business, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of people fall short is these guys go in there and they don't make it about the seller. They're just like there to look at a house and make an offer on a house, and that's that. Like if you really want to be successful, and as you know, through like doing the sales training that we've all done, like when you truly like listen to a person and you solve their problems and you like legitimately solve their problems, dude, you can buy houses for so much cheaper than everybody else. I mean, we get stuff under contract all the time and they were getting 4 or 5 other offers, but they went with us even though we were one of their lowest offers because they like us, because we listened to them, because we solved their problem, because we like treated them like a human being and not just a transaction,
Yeah, that's so powerful, man. I tell my AMs that also, especially the newbie AMs or even sometimes the old ones when they get so fixated on price, right?
Yeah.
And then we're talking like they won't go off this. I'm like, listen, what's their problem?
Right.
What is it that they can solve or that you can solve? And I think you nailed it. If you just focus on that more, you'll start buying deeper deals. One, I have bought many houses where I wasn't the highest offer. I'm sure you have as well.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, absolutely. It's because what do people do? They do business with you if they like and trust you, right? And so
Yeah.
that's what you're doing with the probate, especially they're going through something right now, right then, right? I mean, do you find that most of them are really emotionally tied to it, or is it kind of like, okay, they're getting this property, but they don't, their emotional connection that isn't quite there.
It runs the gamut, right?
Yeah.
Like we have some that are like literally just trying to dump it. And we have others that are like really emotionally attached to it. And that's part of one of your skills as your team needs to have is to like really dial down and figure out what those emotional pain points are and recognize them and understand them. And then if you're solving those pain points and sometimes what the seller may show you versus what the real pain point is, maybe 2 different things, right?
Yeah.
They may be
It's
saying,
always different.
right?
Yeah.
It's about this over here, and that requires a little bit of experience, right? Like, and some emotional intelligence,
So
sure.
let's backtrack a little bit, man, because you're not a sales guy, right?
No, if you look at my profile, like my disc profile, I'm not a sales guy at all.
No, you're not a sales guy. You went from a corporate job, and I think that you were in. You're a programmer, right?
Well, so I the easiest way to describe it is I was a fraud investigator
Right.
for well over a decade. Worked for one of the major banks, credit card companies for many years. Worked for one of the largest wireless carriers out there, insurance company. I kind of, I'd work at a job for a few years and then I'd leave and go somewhere else. That's how I kind of like, I got up to making, like 6 figures by the time I was 30 years old in corporate America. It's just, you change jobs every 4 or 5 years. My dad told me to do that. And, he's worked the same company his whole career, he's like that, like change jobs every 3 or 4 or 5 years. And so I did that. And so I was a fraud investigator, but But my investigations work is I was a data guy. Like I was an SQL database guy. Like I would mine this database and I would build these big fraud cases. I would identify all the attributes of these guys that these big criminal fraud rings would be doing, and I could identify the transactions and the activities and behaviors and data, and then build these big cases. And I worked with the feds, Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security. I worked with, Postal Inspection Service, like all that, and that was fun. Like I loved doing that, but I hated working in a cubicle. I couldn't stand being in a cubicle all day and working for someone else. So that's why I ultimately I left and stopped doing that. But that's what I did.
A hard transition because there's a guy, right? Or there's many guys and girls right now sitting in a cubicle, going to a job that they hate, feel like they're trapped because they make good money and they got a family, Yep. What was that like? What was that point? I don't know if a breaking point is the right word to go, man, I can't live this life anymore and I got to go on my own. But what was that? Go back to that situation. What was that like?
So I was working a great job for that wireless carrier company, right? Had a great boss, had a great gig going. And I started like listening to, I'd always been like had a knack for real estate. And I tried to flip my first house and I bought my first personal residence in 2007, like the worst time ever to buy a house. Yeah. And then it went down the tubes and I was stuck in it. But, I always had a knack. So I started like getting into podcasts and stuff. And I'd listen to podcasts during work, like while I was sitting there driving to work or whatever. So I started reading real estate books. And then I left that company to go work for this other company that like was paying me so much more money. And then that job, like I was completely miserable. Like I was like, at that point I was like, I have to get out of corporate America because like emotionally I'm miserable at this job. And they were paying me fantastic. In fact, literally the week before I put in my notice, they gave me there were two of us. I was in risk management at that company. There were two of us at the company that were basically running all of risk management. Like we had a boss, but he really wasn't, we were doing all the work. Right? They fired that guy. I was left by myself to carry the burden. This was a big check cashing processing company that does the processing behind the scenes for like some of the big major check cashers in the country. And I was risk management for that. Like I was I was making all the rules and deciding.
You were the department.
And everything was on my back, right? And they gave me a 25% raise in my salary pay, right? Like, where do you get a 25% raise? And then a week later, I turned in my notice and they offered me another 25% and stock options. Ironically, 10 years later, that company still hasn't turned a profit yet. Like the stock options are worthless.
Yeah.
But they offered me all this money. I was like, guys, it's not about the money. I'm leaving. So I went to this other corporate job that was a lot more like chill and laid back.
Yeah.
And then I built my real estate business. Like I had the emotional, like weight was lifted off my shoulders where I could just kind of like do my thing. And the funny part is like at that new company, like they thought I was like a rock star. And I was like sandbagging like crazy. Yeah. Like I was only utilizing like a portion of my talent, but I took a pay cut, right, to go to that job. But from an emotional stress standpoint, I had so much less stress. At that point, I had our first kid, and then our second kid was born in 2017. And so I did that for a while. And then, as you know, when you first met me, I was still working at that job. And I left not that long after you first met me. In 2008, January 2018 is when I said sayonara to corporate America, and I drove off and never looked back, right? But I did deals on the side for like 2 years. I was wholesaling deals on the side, doing some flips, wholesales, like all the things. And then I like kind of built up that confidence and realized like, okay, I can do this. And I went to my wife and I was like my job is getting in the way of my real estate business. I think it's time for me to leave. Fortunately, my wife she has a job, so we still have health insurance, but she loves what she does. She's a agile coach for a major company. She's really good at what she does. And she loves it and doesn't really have any desire to ever leave doing that. And her job's very flexible, work from home, like all the things, right? So we were fortunate, like we could still kind of have some of the bills paid, right?
Right.
Like, but I did take a pay cut, right, for a little while to ramp the other, business back up. So that's what I did. I just kind of hustled on the side. And then I got to that point where you're going to have to jump, right? And you're going to take a little bit more of a pay cut, and you got to just, deal with that dip, and then just know that on the backside that if you hustle, you'll do okay, right?
Yeah, I think you nailed a couple of things that really resonated with me. One, you obviously had the support of your wife, which is unbelievably important because everybody knows this is a really rocky business.
Yeah.
Two, you dipped your toe in it and you kind of built up the skill set and the confidence to be able to take that leap. Because I hear a lot of people like, man, you just got to burn the ship someday. I think there's a part of that that's true, but I mean, because I burned the ships and I'm like, oh my God, why'd I do that? I mean, I wish I would have like just, either got a mentorship or just did your path a little bit more, right? But if I had to advise somebody, I think that's such a smart way of getting into real estate.
And I'm kind of like I'm not if you look at my personality profile, like I take calculated risks. Like that's the kind of person I'm at. I'm not like a crazy, like ready, fire, aim kind of person,
Yeah.
but I still do take risks. But I've always been a calculated risks kind of person. And I looked at it and I was like, well, what's the worst that could happen? Right? Worst case scenario, I fail at this, I'll go get another job in 6 months or whatever. But I'm betting on myself. I also, took some money out of my 401k, like gave myself a little bit of runway. We had some savings, all the things. And then we were also banking on my bonus. And somehow my company weaseled their way out of not paying my bonus based on when I left in January and bonuses got paid out in February. And they were like, no, because you weren't here the day the bonus was paid out, you don't get a bonus. And I was like, I worked all of last year and I met all my goals. And they're like, no, look at this fine print. You have to be there on the day of the bonus. I was like, so if I had quit the next day, you would have given me the bonus. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, right. That's the reason why you left, or at least one of them, right? So tell me about the beginning journey, about the first couple of years. Tell me, because we're really big about the the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Tell me about some pitfalls or things you had to go through to get your business. I mean, was there ever a time where you're like, man, I don't know if this is for me?
Early on, I would say I got in at a good time, right?
Yeah.
Like 2018, when I jumped, obviously I started doing deals I did doing direct seller marketing 2016, doing direct mail, and that sort of thing. And I was still doing deals, but then I had to learn about, okay, I got to build a team out. Like I have 90 people. I can't do all this by myself. I can't be and I don't want to be a hustler. I know a lot of deal hustlers that have been doing this for years. They do really well, but they're working all the time and they're always hustling. I didn't want to be a hustler. I did this for the freedom, right? And I had 2 little kids at the time. Like I can't be a hustler. So, there was that piece of doing the marketing, finding the deals, still, building my parachute as I was falling. I mean, there's definitely uncertainty there, like there were some times where, my wife's like, are you going to pay yourself this month? I was like, no. She's like, well, what do you mean? And then I always made up for it the next month. Like I always paid like double back or whatever, and it's always been that way. And she's kind of gotten used to it over time where it's like, you have these dips and stuff. Now I've kind of got myself on just like a salary, I just pay myself a salary and then I'll take quarterly bonuses or whatever. But it's been, an emotional roller coaster either way. And then when you have a team, right, you have employees, you get that burden of like, I got to make payroll this month. And, so I always got to have that cash flow, like cash in the bank. Cause I still got to pay payroll, whether we're closing deals. And then the next month, 1 month you're rich and the next month you're poor. And then the next month you're rich. And then, it's this back up and down, up and down, up and down.
We're going to buy a boat. We're going to go broke.
And then you're buying properties and then you're broke and you're like, well, I got these 4 properties in you sell,
Yeah,
so
you look great. The balance sheet looks great, but you're like, oh my God.
Right. And actually this year I finally got serious about it and like hired our friend David and I'm doing the whole profit first thing. And like I did.
Does that change your business?
What's that?
Does that change your business?
We're still implementing it. I did it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And it was great because like I didn't have to worry about paying taxes that year. I paid myself a bonus that year. And then like last year things got a little crazy, right? So I kind of like fell off the horse. And then this year, I was doing it by myself before, and then I got back on the horse this year. I'm like, I'm doing this. So I hired, Simple CFO, David, that shout out to him. Like he's got a great program there.
Yeah. He's a good guy. Smart guy.
Yeah. So using them, and we're getting like everything like really dialed in and organized right now. I'm in that early phase where we're like getting everything dialed in, organized with all that, and like his dashboards and stuff he has for like looking into everything. Is like, this is awesome.
So it's like a really fancy envelope system, right? That's what I profit first. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, and if you, I don't use Profit First, but I know David as well. Obviously, he's
Yeah.
in our group too.
Yeah.
So talk to me, man. I mean, let's talk about marketing, brother, because I am all outbound. You are all inbound, right?
Yeah. I'm the
Yeah,
opposite.
they're the
And
exact opposite, right? So
you know what's funny is everybody's shifting back to inbound because the outbound's gotten so cracked
I
down from
love it. I love
you
that
know,
everybody's shifting. You know what I
I'm
mean?
like,
Because now we're
I was
getting more
outsourced.
deals. Yeah. you know, so I love that. I hear that all the time with about a bunch of people we know. They're like, I'm going all inbound. And every single time I hear that, I'm like, yes, that is fantastic, But
Yeah,
let's talk about your inbound. You're
sure.
using, what's your primary? PPC? I think we talked about it a little bit. PPC, SEO,
PPC,
click
SEO,
involved.
yeah, and I still do direct mail.
Okay.
You know,
You right now? Okay.
direct mail forever. I still do direct mail. I still do probate in the traditional fashion from direct mail. I'm still mailing out, the list. But what I learned over the years is that actually my big money comes from like the old leads on the probate list. But it
Yeah.
takes you a while to build that up, right? You got to buy these leads for years. But it's like those people that have been on my list for like 2 or 3 years that I still keep mailing. Um,
Well, that's the thing about probate because you never know when you're ready.
yeah,
Right?
correct.
I mean, it's like they could be in pre-probate or whatever the phase they're in. It could be years down the road, right? So,
Right.
do you have a process about that? To how you stay in front of mind for them? Is it
Yeah, well, so I do. We just send postcards because my probate list now is like 25,000.
okay?
It's huge, right?
Yeah,
It grows every month. We scrub it every month. We clean out the stuff that's been sold, and when people call us and ask to be removed, we take them off the list. I'm not that a-hole that's gonna like keep sending them stuff. When they ask to be taken, if they want to be off the list, that's fine.
I'm the same. Yeah,
Whatever. And so it keeps growing every month. And then we just keep mailing them. I don't mail them every month anymore. I used to do that. I do it every 60 days now. Because what I found is you have that like trickle in effect, like of the people that got your mail like last month and they were too busy and now they're calling you this month. And
sure.
I also change up my mail, the color of my postcard every month. So I change it so it doesn't get stale. And then I change the ad copy every probably third or fourth mail piece. So I'll change the
Right.
copy and change the card completely, just to keep it kind of fresh, but I'm just hitting them. It doesn't matter. Like, as long as you're hitting them
Yeah,
consistently, when it does get to that point, like you said, like they may not be ready to sell. Like maybe we've had a lot where they had a tenant in there for 2 or 3 years and then their tenant decided they want to move out. And then they're like, well, I don't want to be a landlord again. Like, let's just sell it, you know?
yeah. So, are
So
you
we
rotating your mails as far as like, okay? I mean, like maybe 3 or 4 times you're bringing back the mail piece from 3 or 4 times past,
yeah,
or
yeah.
are you constantly doing something new?
I'll bring back some of the other pieces, but I kind of always change the ad copy, but sometimes the ad copy's kind of similar to what it was a few months ago, but maybe a little different. I'm always kind of testing things
Yeah,
because marketing's about testing
I
stuff.
guess.
And people get like they get like agnostic to your stuff as they get it, or they get numb to your message if you're just the same thing over and over again. Like they just it's funny because when we do change the mail piece, our like responses like spike up,
That's
because
interesting.
like, they're used to seeing our other card and then they get this other one. And it's just the consistency over the years that matters in direct mail consistency. Well, really any marketing consistency matters, but direct
It
mail is a
does.
whole.
It does. What on direct mail do you find perform the best? Is it letters? Is it postcards? Is it the ugly postcard?
It's this. I found that the simpler the postcard, the less like I put less stuff on it, and also my copy speaks to their pain points.
Mm,
And like I do because I'm mailing a probate, I don't actually call out the probate on my postcard. Like I've never done that. I call out some of the pain points of probate on my postcard, but I don't physically say, "Hey, we know your mom died," like
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
Right?
If
We
they
don't.
start talking to them, man, they'll freak out.
Correct. But I do call out pain points of probate
Give an
and and,
example.
and mix them in between like, oh, complicated inheritance, no problem.
Mm,
Um, fighting siblings. No, like I call out some of the things, and then I do that like compliment sandwich where I'll like put some other things in there, and then like they'll see that. So I usually on each card I like try to do some of the bullet points of the pain points. But and I also don't say, like, I never say, oh, we buy houses for cash, like everybody and their brother says. I just said, hey, we're still buying houses or whatever. Like I never say for cash. I never say close quick. I never say any of that. I just say we make it easy. Like it's easy. And I make my cards very simple and they're very rudimentary. But really I tried some of the fancy stuff early on. It doesn't make a difference. Like, but I do think that letters are effective and on certain lists, right? As you're data guy, you guys do all this data stuff, like your list matters. And then your list is giving you what your audience is, and you need to understand your audience. And then you need to speak to your audience. So you need to know what your audience's pain points are, and you need to speak to those pain points and how you will fix those pain points, right?
Yeah, I mean, you really do. And I think it really depends on what medium. I used to do a lot of direct mail. We haven't done direct mail in years. I mean, the thing is, I think I love the KISS rule. I like to keep things as simple as possible, right? And I have a tendency of overcomplicating things. So when it comes to direct mail, it was just like, how often are we hitting them? What is the cadence? And, how quickly can we answer the phone? It was really as simple as that.
There you go. Right there. Answering the phone, right? Yeah. So many people don't answer their phone. So I've had the same leads manager for years, but I also use Call Porter like as a backup.
Yeah.
I've used them for years just as a backup. So our phones are always getting answered by someone all the time. They're always talking to someone, right? And also follow up.
Yeah,
especially this time of year.
Business. I mean, it's a simple business. It's hard to execute. It's a hard business, but it's a simple concept, right?
Yes.
So to your point, you got to follow. And I always say this: if you're not feeling like you're stalking them, especially the first week, then you're not following up enough. That first week, re-engagement is such a big deal, because if you don't get that phone call, right, if you don't answer that first phone call, you might never get them back on the phone again, right? I mean, so.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing, right? You got to make sure, like, sometimes we make this mistake, or I've made this mistake, or we're like, I talk to them, I'm busy, and I hear the motivation points, but I don't book an appointment. And you've got to book that appointment on that call. And sometimes you can take it all the way to the finish. I'm not an over the phone guy. I know a lot of guys we know like are sort of everything's over the phone.
Yeah.
I'm not. Like, we still do belly to belly appointments. But we booked that appointment. My leads manager worked for me for 4 years. Like, she knows, like, she can hear it now. Like, she's got that knack for it, right? So she knows, like, if you hear those motivation pain points, I don't care what their asking price is. Like, it doesn't matter what they're asking. If you hear those motivation pain points, book the appointment. Don't even check with our AM to see if he's available. Like, just book an appointment. And if we need to reach
anybody else,
we can, right? And try to be the first appointment.
Yeah.
Because there's so many times where, like, we've booked the appointment for like 2 days from now, and somebody else is more aggressive and gets the appointment for this afternoon, and they do their sales process and lock them in, and then the people call us back and say, hey, I need to cancel. I already got it. Right.
That's always like, you know what I mean?
I go back to my lead manager, but what the heck? Like, come on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, we've done this a long time, so you kind of learn, right? Like, hey, I want to be the first appointment, and then every single time they go, I got somebody right behind you. I want to find my way to be the last appointment as well. So I want to be the first appointment and the last appointment. So I always ask them, hey, when is that? When are they going to come by? Don't sign anything, blah, 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 And then I know, like, say, okay, well, they're going to come by at 6 o'clock, we'll be done at 7. I will find a way to call them around 7 o'clock. You know what I mean? Just some way to come back around. And it's that little tactic right there has done really well when we were belly to belly. We haven't been belly to belly in quite a while, though.
Sure. Well, you're doing a lot of remote stuff now too. So, like, I mean, it's kind of hard.
Dude, I'm lazy, man. I don't want to go to anybody's house, man. I'm going to lie to you, dude. I do not want to go to anybody's house. I feel as if I think the skill set on sales is a little bit tougher, right? Like, you're always going to buy deeper because of your belly to belly than I am.
Right.
But I have the advantage of speed, obviously, right? So I could do speed volume. Yeah, because I mean, for me, it's like driving to the call. Doing that whole process is a couple of hours sometimes, right?
Sure.
So it is what it is. I mean, the thing, I guess, the real thing is this: it doesn't matter what your business is. Everything works. You just got to work it. Right.
Yes, correct. Right. Figure out what you're good at. Like, because I realized early on, I tried the cold calling thing and I tried the SMS thing, and I was like, that's not really,
It's not you.
I don't like it. It's not me.
Yeah.
And it's not my team. So like, let's just get good at what we're doing. And then obviously over time, we're like, well, wait a second, like probate deals are our best deals that we do. Hands down, most profitable deals. We're really good at them. Like it's the 80-20 principle, right? I was like,
let's think about
80% of my revenue is coming from 20% of my leads, because I was doing all the things, right? I mean, I was doing tax delinquents and, divorce lists and, all the stuff, right? Pay-per-click and buying leads from the pay-per lead services. And I was spending a fortune on leads. And I was like, let's make this simple and just do one thing and get really good at that one thing. And then this is morphed into like, okay, well, now I'm really good at this. I'm generating leads all over the country. I obviously can't be in California or whatever. So let me sell the leads to somebody who is in California that will go to the appointment, that sort of thing. So that's how this idea evolved with what I'm doing.
That's awesome, man. I think it's fantastic. You're a smart dude, so I know that you're going to do well with it. Well, what is I'm going to put the link on the show notes, but just go ahead and tell me what your domain is again.
Yeah, go to probatehouseguy.com.
Okay.
And that's where they can kind of learn more about that whole thing.
All right, awesome. How do they get a hold of you, man, if they want to kind of talk to you about things?
So obviously I've got, if they want to reach out to me, I mean, I've got my Facebook, just my personal Facebook, Brad Woodall. I've got a social media profile, like a Probate House Guy social media profile, that I'm just terrible at always doing business profiles. I just rather post everything on my personal.
Yeah. That's the best way to brand anyways.
Yeah. So I've got that. And then you can email me, at brad@probatehouseguy.com. And I've got a YouTube channel for that speaks to investors and agents. If you want to watch my YouTube videos, honestly, I don't have a ton of followers. I've just been cranking out these videos to get good content out there. Yeah. I'm sure it's great content, but so if you want to go check that out, subscribe to that channel, that's fine. So that's the best way to reach me.
Awesome, Brad. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you coming by, man. Appreciate your friendship. We've known each other for a long time. Best of luck with everything that you're going through. And, hey, guys, peace out. We'll see you next time, okay? So that's a wrap. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I hope you received value from this episode. If so, please share this podcast to your brothers and sisters, and also hook up with us on Facebook, IG, and YouTube at Real Talks. That's REIL Talks. Until next time, my friends, keep it cool, keep it real, and peace out.